2, 1. We're going live. Okay, we're live now. So,
Cool.
see, there are 8 people viewing right now. Just want to say hi to everybody. Hi, I'm
Hey,
Keith.
everyone. There is? Oh, okay, cool.
You have to go to YouTube to see how many people are on.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm on the marker that you gave me, and let me go on YouTube real quick.
If you get on our Sentient Academy on the landing page, you will see your YouTube, and you can go there. So, hi everybody. I'm Keith Huang. I'm the founder and CEO of Sentient Academy, and today we are very lucky to have Kai over here, and I'll just let Kai to do a quick introduction.
Hey guys, yeah, I'm Kai Lun Qu. Thank you for coming to my live stream demonstration. Hopefully we'll have fun today, I'm open to answering questions while I paint. I'm pretty social when it comes to that, so feel free to let me know if you guys have any questions at all about art or my process or anything. Like there's no stupid questions on it. Yeah, let's see. Just gonna...
Okay, awesome. It looks like we're live and everything looks good. So we have another 5 minutes until we officially start. But right now we can just kind of get things ready, and maybe you can kind of give us a quick rundown on what you'll be doing today.
Let's see. Can you guys see me? Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm gonna be just doing a 1-hour alla prima, which is a direct oil painting method on a 11x14 panel. Just to kind of like get a quick sketch in, just to see what we can do within an hour, just by capturing the big essential parts. The model is actually one of my friends, Brian. He came and sat down at the atelier that I teach at, and this is just one of the many reference pictures of him. If anyone wants this, feel free to DM me on Instagram, or and I'll give you a or ask Sentient Academy. I think Keith has a high resolution picture of this too, if you want to test and try painting this or drawing this yourself at home as well. And yeah, over here I have like this charcoal demonstration that I did. It's this quick sketch of the same model. I thought, figure I just do the same reference in painting, just because I've already done it in drawing. And hopefully everyone knows that drawing is the crucial foundation of painting. So if you can draw, you can paint.
I can't draw, but I can paint.
Oh, really? I mean, there are actually some people that do that. There are some people who only learn how to paint and rarely draws. I know my teacher Daniel Keys paints more than he draws. I know, but he's like really amazing at painting. So.
But I always run into drawing issues, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, like those drawing issues can also be solved with just painting too, but it would be a little bit more, I guess, tedious in a way, because there's more things to consider. I think that's why usually it's easier to just figure it out by drawing first, so you don't have to worry about like mixing colors and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see. I don't know. It's like how many more minutes until we start? 3 minutes?
3 minutes. Hey, let's look at that charcoal drawing. So do you want to talk briefly about when you did that charcoal study, what are the big parts that you were trying to capture there?
So here, yeah, let me just, so I could just, yeah, there we go. Just tilting it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, for this charcoal study, essentially I was just, this is a demonstration that I gave my students at Pacific Art League. I'm just gonna hang this down a little bit. Yep. And this is actually a pretty quick demonstration too. I did it like in 20-30 minutes, and essentially it's just to kind of show them that you don't really need to capture details in order to kind of depict form. You know what I mean? Because a lot of them, like when I gave them this reference to do as homework, and I had them do it by themselves just because I was curious to see what they would do. A lot of them were focused so much on, like, say the details of the hair, details of the eyes, details of, the beard, getting all those little strands in. And honestly, it's not really necessary to do that, right? Because everything that we see, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when we start oil painting, is everything is just a visual illusion, right? We're not, this is not a real thing. Like the painting that I'm going to be doing is not real, right? I'm not going to be able to like pull it out. But it's it seems like it's going to be there, right? I mean, hopefully, I don't know. That's because it's all just creating an illusion that hopefully, will translate well to viewers' visions, right? And in order to create that illusion, you really don't need much, right? You don't need too much details. As long as you have the big initial shapes of light, dark, and even a little bit of medium, your eyes should do the rest of the work. That's why painters like Sargent and Zorn, they're like so amazing, because they understand that it's all just an illusion and they're just playing that illusion. So if you look at a Sargent or a Zorn painting, there isn't any they don't meticulously sculpt out every hair like photorealistically, but it looks like life. It looks more lifelike than any photorealistic paintings I've ever seen. So hopefully that kind of gives you an idea, right? I'll explore that a little bit more later, but yeah. Okay. So
we're 4 o'clock. Let's go.
Let's do it then. All right.
First, can you kind of talk about your color palette real quick?
Yeah, for sure. So what I'm using is I'm gonna talk while I paint, but what I'm using is titanium white, lemon yellow, cadmium orange, cadmium red, alizarin crimson, transparent oxide, ultramarine blue, viridian green, ivory black, and over on this side and this side, I have like my little fun colors that I use. Sometimes I don't use them all the time. They're just like little colors I experiment with. So this is King's blue, turquoise, phthalo blue, cobalt blue. Cobalt blue and phthalo blue, I still count them as fun colors. I don't really use them that much just because I think I like using my ultramarine blue as the main color. Yeah. And then I have my brilliant rose, which Rembrandt gave to me for free as like a little sample. So that's why I have this there. And then I have this Gamblin neutral warm gray just to test it out. And yellow ochre, burnt umber. And that's it, Okay. Gonna start now with a little bit of burnt umber. What I usually like doing is I like to dip my brush into burnt umber, a little bit of alizarin crimson, a little bit of ultramarine blue, and dip it in a little bit in my Gamsol. And instead of mixing, I'll just apply it straight away onto my surface, because what's the point of mixing? Because this is just meant to kind of help cover up.
Yeah.
And while I do this, I'm also thinking about composition in a way. Like, how do I want the portrait to kind of sit? So I'm thinking in terms of a very abstract way of saying like, okay, maybe like I have like this little stroke that I kind of did there. I'm like, oh, cool, that can be like maybe where that head starts, So I'm really letting abstraction dictate where I go, I'm not trying to meticulously plan everything out. I'm just kind of having fun with it. This is the time for me to kind of be an abstract painter, right? And there is beauty in abstraction. That's why I love intersecting both realism and abstraction together. As you'll see later, when I start, I don't really start out like traditionally like an oil painter with like a block in. I don't really like doing that. Instead, what I would do is I'm going to mix a little bit. Actually, I'm going to switch brushes now. So the brushes I'm using are rosemary brushes. I've been really digging these ivory long flats. So I'm using a number 6 ivory long flat right now. They're really
those ivories are good.
Yeah, they're really spring. I actually used to not like using them at all. Like I used to avoid using them because like I thought like Eclipse and the Master's Choice series with the super soft brushes are the ways to go, But it's only been recently I started using them, and I found that they're really nice. They give you like really nice structurally sound sculptural brush strokes. Okay, so I mix in like a slight dark right here, and what I'm going to first do is I'm just going to start laying in the colors. I'm just gonna start laying in the dark colors. I'm not gonna like worry too much about form. I'm also not really doing I'm not really doing under painting in a way. I'm kind of laying in just like the darks real quick, think of it in terms of like, if you're a sculptor, you're not going to go in and start sculpting the details, right? You're putting clay on, and that's essentially what I'm doing right now. I'm just kind of putting clay on, kind of playing with it, just look at some ideas. Okay, cool. So roughly this was where the most of the darks will be, right? So now I can get in with the lights. I'm gonna mix transparent oxide with a little bit.
Hey, is that transparent yellow oxide?
Oh, it's transparent red oxide. Yeah.
Oh, it's a red. Okay.
Yeah. So
The yellow.
Yeah. So the red oxide, it's a really nice shortcut to get like a nice neutral skin tone.
Yeah.
It's a trick I picked up from Richard Schmidt actually.
Yep.
When I saw him using it, and then I saw Daniel Keyes using it too when I was studying with him, and then I was like, oh man, cool! So I can do that too. It's been good, but you don't want to overly rely on it either, right?
Yeah, I used mostly transparent yellow oxide, and I just add, if I need to make it redder, I just add red into it. But I like the yellow oxide with what are the colors I use? Transparent yellow oxide, ivory black, and titanium white. It's basically almost like Zorn palette, and that creates really nice, cool shadows.
Yeah. No,
yellow. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always like open to exploring different colors. I don't really like to be tied down.
Yeah.
Just one color,
You should check out Alvin's course, because he does some really funky colors, and he's so good at it. Some of the colors I was just kind of like, man, how do you pull it off with like olive green and some really funky colors?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, that kind of shows you that you don't really need like there's no secret colors. You go, as long as you're utilizing proper values and proper warm and cool relations, the painting will look correct. You don't have to it should come out towards you.
Like you say, it's an illusion, right? As long as your value, because your form is created by the value, not really the color.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And you don't need too much either. It's kind of like when you're outside, and then you're like, oh, cool. You see like a friend of yours from like super far away, but you immediately recognize them. Like they're waving to you, even though you can't really see their face. Clearly, you'll still know that, hey, that's my friend over there. How come we are able to recognize?
So the big shapes.
It's just the shapes. It's shape recognition. It's
right now. I'm glad you actually did a charcoal study next to it, because right now, if you guys compare the charcoal, and then really all you see through camera is, if you squint your eyes in the charcoal, you just see those big shapes, and you can see Kai right now, he already got the big shapes down, and that will tell you it's that person. It's your friend Brian, right? So you don't really need to kind of get into his eyelid or lips to say it's him. As long as you get the big shapes in the right place, you can see it's him already.
Yeah, and I don't think I'll be able to have time to get to his eyelid anyway. So,
but that's the point you're trying to illustrate here, right? It's really just, if you want to be a good portrait painter, you gotta really get the shapes down.
It is. Yeah, definitely. And and that whole thing about being a portrait painter too. Like I'm teaching a portrait workshop right now for the Pacific Art League online, and I mean students come to me and they're like, oh man, we're so excited to learn how to draw a face. I'm like, oh cool, we're not going to be doing that. I'm using the class as a vehicle to teach you guys how to measure and think about shapes. We're using the portrait as a vehicle, but in no means am I gonna be like, okay, today we're gonna be learning how to draw an eye or a nose, because that's really limiting. Because if you were to learn how to draw like that, you'll only ever know how to draw an eye in that specific angle, specific lighting, right? So I think it's kind of like that term. You can teach a man how to fish, or you can teach him a fish. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I like how you're saying there's not such a thing as a course to learn how to paint eyes or lips. We are in the US right now, right? And most model sessions you go is probably not gonna be Asian eyes. So when they comes to paint you and my eyes, they're gonna be like, oh, I've never done this type of eyes before. But
Yeah.
it's really nothing but shapes.
It
If you
is.
know how to approach it that way, you can paint any single eye out there.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's
Yeah.
that's true. That's definitely true. I mean, I noticed that problem actually because my education was I got my education in China, my early education in China. I went there for freshman year of high school, and I stayed there for like a year and a half, and I studied at the art academy there where they taught us like it was technique that stemmed from really good, I guess, foundations because they were learning from the Russian academic kind of method, but they combined that together with China's rigorous testing mindset. You know what I mean? So
I do, sir.
yeah, if you guys don't know that, just Google Chinese art exam room and you'll see what I mean. It's the rooms filled. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about, right, Keith? Because you're
Everything is exam. There's got to be a grade. If there's not a grade, you're not learning, right?
And during the testing, it's crazy because they have like so many people, just like thousands of students just crammed in that room, just doing the same exact thing, and that's like how they determine whether you can go to college or not. Which I mean, like I do wish there was a little bit more of that here in America, but that's like to the extreme. That's like way too extreme,
How you bring back bad memories right now, man.
Oh yeah. But
I still remember that day. The day that's supposed to determine my future.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. But here's the thing, like I realized when I came back to America, I had a problem. And that problem was everyone that I painted, everyone I drew, I didn't know how to paint yet. Everyone that I drew looked like the same exact Chinese person, even if they weren't Chinese at all. Like that was my issue. Oh man, it was hard. It was so hard to break that mindset because I wasn't looking at things like shapes. I was thinking of like, oh, that's like the teacher told us, oh, you got to draw the eye like this in order to get like a high grade. You got to draw the mouth and you got to draw the nose like that. You got to get that cheekbone in there to make sure you get that point. You know what I mean? So that was my mindset. That's why, when I first met people like Daniel Keyes, I met people like, the American, like the Western painters, here, like people from the Portrait Society, and I saw them paint. I was like, oh man, like I wasn't thinking like, oh, that's so cool. I want to learn that. My mindset was like, oh, you're allowed to do that? I thought that was against the rules. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I realized having that mindset, that was like what was really limiting to me. So I had to break that mindset. It was hard, but I broke it eventually.
I like how the portrait is turning out right now, even with just simple strokes. But I don't know if you guys saw how he sculpt. I will use the word sculpt because you are sculpting,
I
right?
like that. Yeah. I use that word all the time. Yeah.
Go ahead. So when he's sculpting that little highlight next to the nose, like the upper lip, that area, whatever you call it, if you know anatomy, you'll know that area. But that once he popped that highlight in there, the form just popped right out. And then when he put that little darker value in the corner of the mouth and on like the upper lip area, and if you understand light and shadow, you will see what he's doing here. Because when he put that darker shape for the upper lip, because the light source is kind of above, right? So when the light hits the upper lip, the nose, and the beard, it's gonna cast a little darker plan on the upper lip. So when he put that shape right in there, they just form the mouth without even painting the mouth.
Exactly.
And that's kind of what you're doing here. It's just you're trying to find all different shapes. Can you talk about negative shapes? Sometimes do you use negative shapes to kind of help you to?
I do. I'm glad you brought that up because yes, I absolutely do. And that's something I always tell students to try doing too, because I realized with a lot of students, they only focus on the positive shapes, which is like the shadow shapes. They don't really look at the shape like, in between the nose, like the shadow of the nose to like the shadow of that. Like they don't look at that shape. They ignore it. Instead, they just look at the shadow of the eye or the shadow of the nose. You see what I mean? Whereas that's only looking at 50% of the puzzle, right? You're only looking at 50% of it. But if you were to look at 100%, which is both light shapes and dark shapes, you'll have a higher probability of getting it correct in terms of drawing, So no, that's a good point. No, I definitely I don't know. Wait, is that what you meant by negative shapes? Because that's what I mean by negative shapes whenever I talk. Yeah. I know yeah. I never really had a teacher, so sometimes I just make up quotes or terms and I'm not even sure if I'm using this. I'm not even sure if I'm using them right or not. But yeah. Okay. How are we doing on time, by the way?
4:14. I think you're way ahead.
For what?
4:14, 15.
Oh, it's only been 15 minutes?
Yep.
Oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's 15 minutes.
That's good. Yeah. These couple of days I've just been painting every day, but I've just been taking my sweet time. So it's nice to get back into kind of, speeding up a little, because I feel I tell my students this every time I demonstrate. Don't don't try to be super fast. I rather you be really slow. I rather you give me three lines in your drawing. This is for drawing class. I tell students of this all the time. I say I rather you give me 3 lines that are completely, absolutely correct than 5 rushed studies. You know what I mean? At least at the beginning, because I feel at the beginning it's really about the quality of what you're learning as opposed to the quantity of what you're doing, right? They say practice makes perfect, but I believe that's not really true. I think perfect practice makes perfect. You gotta be practicing and utilizing the right mindset and be looking at the same things, So there's something to think about. Okay. So when I'm painting, I usually don't want to spend too long on one area. I usually want to kind of move around and just sculpt the form throughout, so then I can use everything to my advantage, and I'll be able to see more shapes, right? And brush economy is also very important to me. I usually try to, I still catch myself doing this, but I try not to. I really try to utilize each of my brush strokes. And what that means is, I believe each brush strokes should have their own unique jobs, right? Every time you lay it down, that stroke should be doing something for the form. You shouldn't just be painting and just for the sake of painting, right?
And that's kind of how Sargent is, right? He looks, step back, think about it, maybe put on something and wipe it off. But eventually, when he put down the stroke, it speaks really loudly for a statement.
Yeah, definitely. And it shows you that my father. My father's a fine artist, actually. He's an art professor in China, actually, and he said this quote to me that I really, really like. He said to me that because when I was young, I was really into photorealistic drawings. I wanted to draw those celebrity models and stuff. That's what I wanted to do, right? Because I thought it was cool. And then one day I was this is when I was 14, and I was just struggling with trying to draw this eye of this I think this actor, I forgot who he was, but and then my dad would come over, and I'm like, hey, can you help me with this? Because I don't, it's not looking like the eye. Isn't it not looking like the eye, right? I say I'm trying to get all the little hairs in, but it's still not looking right. And my dad just took out he used the Chinese traditional Chinese paint, and he took out this giant brush, and he dipped it in his ink, and then just in 4 strokes got that eye out immediately. And then he just left me saying the word, he quoted he gave me this quote, and he was like, anybody can spend 10,000 strokes and make it look good, but it takes a true master to be able to depict all that in 3 strokes.
Yep.
Strokes, and that really stuck with me. And I was like, oh man, that's really cool.
Powerful, right? Less is more.
Less is more, definitely, especially in painting. Less is definitely more, right? I'm not discrediting the photo painters. There are a lot of good ones out there, but for me, I just find paintings where I can really see the hand a lot more, I guess, engaging in a way.
Hey, can you talk about value relationship? Like, how do you judge how dark it is compared to, like a lot of people they struggle with values because they don't quite understand how to judge the value relatively. Like value is not an absolute value, right? Because you can key your painting up or down to have a more of a high key painting. But as long as the relationship is correct, the illusion is gonna work.
Exactly. Yeah. Value relationships. So yeah, that's an interesting one. So I usually, what I like doing at least is I like to start with a base. Or I like to start with a anchor point or an anchor shape. And for me, an anchor point basically just means something that can keep me grounded, right? So usually what I do at the beginning is I try to look at the subject and I just get a nice neutral base shape or base value in there. I'm trying to get it as close as I can to what I see, at least at the beginning. And even if it's not correct, it's totally fine, because you can always adjust it. But I always like to use that, and then after that, every other value that comes after that, I like to kind of think about it like, okay, is this darker or lighter compared to what I just painted or what I just drew, right? It's always about like a process of comparison, right? And of course, I mean, this is something I noticed too. I tell students this as well. Don't overly focus on your work or on one area, because here's the thing: the more you do, like for example, like I can't really see you right now, Keith, but if I was there with you right now, if I were to just focus on your eyes, right? The more I look, the more things I'll be able to see. Like the more I look, I'll notice like, oh, your eyelashes, like, oh, I notice like maybe a little like.
Yeah.
Right? The more I look, the more I'll see, right? And because your eye adjusts to the new information, and it gives whatever you're seeing hierarchy in a way.
Yeah.
And I think that's good and bad. I think we can try to utilize that to our advantage. For what I tell students, it's like, try not to fall into the trap of that per se. You know what I mean? Where you're looking and you're looking at somebody or you're looking at a model and you're trying to get that value right, and you're just like laser focusing on that value. You're not focusing on anything, just laser focusing on that value. And then like the more you paint, the less accurate it looks. And the reason why is because we're laser focusing. The more we focus, the more we see, and because the more we see, it changes. Our perception of it changes.
And then when you focus like that, you stop comparing to.
Exactly. So I always tell students never ever rest on one area.
Yeah.
We want to compare, like value comparison, right? We want to compare. We want to keep that sort of engagement up, right?
And not only creating the form, when you are able to play with the values right, you can create different edges just by placing the same value or not the same value next to each other, right? Like if you have more of a contrasty value, put it up against each other, you're gonna create a harder edge compared to, say right now, if you squint your eyes, that little gray shape next to the dark shape of the eye, that edge is a little bit softer because the value are closer.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's definitely something I usually like thinking about as well. But yeah, I guess that's like, that's my solution to that, right? Is to constantly keep. Oops, here.
Oh, your camera just went out.
There we go.
Oh, it's time to fall asleep.
There we go. Sorry, my camera sleeps every 30 minutes. Can you see me again?
Yeah, you're all good.
All right.
I'm glad we got this workout.
Yeah.
We spent some time testing the other day, but I think this is much better view than the one you did with your phone.
Yeah. Definitely. So right now what I'm doing is I'm just still sculpting out the form. I'm going a little bit more I guess I'm zeroing in a little bit more right now, just because I want to get started with. Let's see. Just because I just kind of want to get started with the overall, trying to get a nice sense of where I can kind of go with this, right? And usually what I like doing is I like to try to get one area at least to a pretty nice, like 70% finished before I start with the rest, just so I can kind of give myself like a go in a way, or like I understand like what to aim for. But yeah, like right now we're 25 minutes in, yeah. So usually it's good to do this halfway through. Cool. And I'm still constantly thinking about shapes, right? Like I'm constantly thinking about painting in terms of going from large shapes to medium shapes to small shapes. You know, I never want to start with just large shape with small shapes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Always want to kind of build it up. I think I heard Scott Burdick say something about this in one of his I think one of his like newsletters. But it's like those Russian dolls. You know what I'm talking about? Like those Russian. I forgot the name of the dolls, but it's like those dolls where you open it up
like,
and it's a smaller doll inside.
Putting an egg and kind of like an egg thing, right? And you just keep opening up.
Yeah. You know, like those dolls, right? And he made a comparison to that in painting, and I was like, oh man, that's genius, because that's exactly how you should be thinking of it. You know, you should be thinking of it in terms of like, you know, going from, you don't want to open up the doll and it's like a big doll, and then suddenly you open up it's like super small. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's the issue that most people stumble into when they're painting. Like they go from a super big shape to a super small shape, and there's nothing in between, right? And so we're missing that key connection, that we're missing that key mid-tone component. And I feel like that definitely will result in a painting that will fall flat or wouldn't be as dimensional in a way. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And also we see you still use the same size of brush right now.
Oh yeah, I've been using the same brush.
Yeah,
so the same brush for the entire process.
You don't want to get right to the one hair brush right away, right?
No, and I'm gonna be honest with you. A lot of my paintings, like I've only used like maybe one or two brushes, and they're all like somewhat this size, you know.
You know, Brian mentioned a really cool trick about brushes is you don't want to have like all the sizes, say like 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. For him, he would do 1 inch and then drop all the way down to like much smaller, and there's nothing in between, and that way you'll force him to use all different edges on the big 1-inch brush to create different marks.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And that way he adds more variety in his brush work.
Definitely. I feel like, you know, it comes back to that saying what we're talking about, where we're saying less is more, you know.
Yeah.
So I think you giving yourself less options definitely forces you to kind of, you know, think about your options, and you know, right?
Or make better decisions, right? Because sometimes we complicate things in a way. Like if you have way too many brushes, then it's just make it harder for you. But
yeah, definitely. And I feel like right now a lot of painters are really lucky in a way, you know, because we have so much cool materials nowadays. You know, we have so much cool things to our disposal that I feel like a lot of people mistake that for, you know, I need to have all these to be a good painter. I need to have like you know, these things to be able to paint like this artist that also has these things. That's not really the case, you know. Materials are just a luxury, especially good materials. They're all a luxury. I don't view them at all as a necessity. Like I remember I was giving this demonstration one time in Baltimore when I was teaching a workshop there, and one of the students, she was like slightly older, you know, and basically she said, like when I was giving my demonstration, she was like, oh, you can, I mean, she was half joking in a way, right? We were pretty good friends, but she was like, oh, you can only paint like that just because you have your fancy rosemary brushes and your fancy Michael Harding paints. You know what I mean? So when she said that, I stopped my demonstration because, you know, I was like, oh, you know, let's challenge that mindset. Like, I wasn't like targeting her, but I was like, let's challenge that mindset, because I feel like it's that mindset that's holding a lot of students back, because they're like, oh, I don't have the best materials, so I'm not expecting to have the best results. So what I did during that time was, I just, I put my materials elsewhere, and I asked, okay, who has the cheapest paints right here? And there was like this one student, I think she bought her paints from like, like one of those like discount stores. She's like, oh, like I got these paints for like $15. Like it's like 15 colors, and so I was like, cool, can I borrow your paints? You can use my paints later. And yeah, she was of course really happy. And I used her paints, and for brushes, I started my rosemaries, put them aside, and I took a quick look around the studio, slightly messy studio. So I saw this like brush on the floor at the corner of the room. I picked it up. It's like medium, and it was like slightly hard, and definitely old, definitely like mistreated. And I used that as my demonstration tool. And I did a demonstration using all those tools. And of course, I mean, like the colors didn't come out as vibrant as if I were to use my my Michael Harding paints, but the painting still looked good because the value and everything is still correct.
Yeah.
And that hopefully, I mean, like after that, I mean, the students were like, oh man, there really is zero excuse now. You know what I mean? There is no.
Like your dad is saying, right? Like your dad was talking about the brush work, but at the same time, the same idea goes with materials. If you get your values and all the fundamentals right, these are just tools to kind of
exactly,
get you to. Don't get me wrong. There are certain things a good brush can do that.
Oh yeah.
It cannot be accomplished with a cheap brush, like sharper edge and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But in that, without that, you just cannot do any good work.
Oh, definitely. I mean, like I'll kind of come back to that, and this time I'm going to talk about my surface. Like the paintings that I usually do. I mean, I used a bunch of different surfaces. I've had my share of using really good surface too. Like I actually have a whole row of quadruple lead primed linen from Classens. So I have good surfaces, but I usually don't try to like let myself get bound by those surfaces. So like say for example like the lion painting that you saw that I did. Remember that lion painting?
Yeah, the lion. Yeah.
Yeah, the lion sculpture. That painting was actually done on cheap dollar store panel.
Yeah, I can tell from the weave.
Yeah, it's actually done by a cheap dollar store panel. Like, and the reason why it still adhered pretty well to my paints was because of the way I prepared it. And I didn't use any like fancy, like lead ground or whatever. I didn't use any of that. What I did, I'll let you guys know my secret, my budget secret. And I actually did the same thing for this that I'm painting, this surface I'm using too. You get these cheap panels, cotton panels, and then what you do is get cheap acrylic white paint, and you like use a palette knife to spread it on the panel, just enough to cover, and then like you spread it around, and then you do that for like maybe 2 to 3 layers, until at least some of the texture goes away. Waiting for them to dry in between layers, and after that, my secret weapon is amber shellac, and this is something you can get from Home Depot. I have like a giant jar. I've used it already for like 7 to 8 panels, and it barely dented it, and you can get it for like $7 at Home Depot. And it's I don't know if you know what amber shellac is, but it's essentially just it's used to varnish wood, to seal the wood and give it that nice sheen. Brown sheen. Yeah. So this is actually a trick that I picked up from my good friend and extraordinary painter, Vincent Desiderio. He uses it for everything, for all his paintings. And when he visited my studio and he told me about it, I was like, oh man, really? And then like I tried it, and man, it just saved so much time. So that's usually what I use every time I want to paint something. I just give it a nice, and it gives you like this nice warm kind of underpainting color that you can kind of work off of. Yeah. And the reason why it's really nice is it makes everything so smooth. It makes everything slightly slippery in a way.
That lead primed feel to it, right? it's got the lead prime feel to it. It's like a little bit non-absorbent, but not too slick. It's got a good bite to it.
Yeah. So it
Yeah, 'cause I know
yeah,
our Sentient masters, like I know Josh use it, Alvin use it, Mike, Mom, they all use that.
they used
And
to really.
yeah, they just get masonite boards and just shellac the whole thing
Oh
and
man,
cut it down.
I didn't know they used that too. They probably have the non-colored version then.
Yeah, well, they just have the Home Depot kind of mix it a little bit. So Mike will have it mixed kind of like grayish color.
Mm-hmm.
So when he primed it with that, it just comes out. All his panels are kind of somehow gray. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. So
Oh,
kind of save you time to. I think he got it to a pretty good, decent kind of like a mid-tone
mm-hmm.
gray. So it helps with the value because you already at start with a mid-tone. So
Oh yeah, definitely.
go on there. Yeah.
Definitely.
Hey, I want to talk to you about your brush strokes because I see the way you lay things down. There's a did you practice like a certain way to lay your brush stroke down?
Um, that's. I mean, yeah and no. I don't actively practice it, but I am careful of it. Like I said, I want my brush strokes to kind of do have duties. You know what I mean? So I don't want to just just paint like this and just hope for the best.
Yeah.
I always want my brush strokes to have meaning behind them, whether it be to push out a form or to pull in or to turn or anything like that. So yeah, I mean, like for example, like right here, I'm approaching the brush stroke like this, and then I don't want it to go all the way up, so I'm just gonna tilt it like so.
That's what I meant.
Hmm?
Yeah, I noticed the way you kind of lay down your brush stroke that way, and I really like it because it's not just a random. Some people they just put it down randomly, but it looks like you have more of an order to it.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm because like a lot of things with brush, especially when you're painting the brush strokes like for the outside form. A lot of people when they do that, they're just purely painting just to get the background. And for me, I believe the background is an essential part of the composition as well. You don't want to just randomly paint
Yeah.
background, right? You want it to have purpose, right? Or else it'll just become derivative in a way, your brushstrokes, right? So I usually want to at least try my best. I fail most like a lot of times too, but I always just want to try my best to try to at least engage with the brushstrokes, and half the brushstrokes can help me pull the image out and make it a little bit more compelling. But that's essentially right.
And that's like right there, that stroke right there as you kind of go down and up, and also that gray next to the mouth.
Yeah.
You lay it down so carefully, even though it's simple one thick stroke there, but it's making a statement on your background.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, definitely. I want to harmonize both the portrait and the background as well. I don't want to just have the background just be kind of like the support. I want it to be a part of the conversation. Just something I like thinking about. Right.
I really like that.
Thank you.
Something that I picked up from you. That's really great. Oh, another question.
Mm-hmm.
Brush stroke and the form. Do you, especially on a portrait, do you have a certain way I paint along the form or against the form?
Yes, a little bit. Yeah, I do. I mean, I try to have my brushstroke kind of go kind of help enhance the form in a way. So for instance, like this brushstroke right there, I applied it just like so. I didn't apply it like this because I know that the form is kind of turning like so. You see what I mean? So I like to think about, but I don't like to think about it too much, where it becomes kind of a cliche in a way.
Yeah. But there's a little bit order in the chaos.
Yeah, basically. I mean, I don't know if you guys seen some of my other time lapse before. Like I recently did this. I think it's it's this painting right here. Baby Yoda. Yeah. If you were to take a look at how I started, it did not look like Baby Yoda at all. It looks like a blob of blue and green. You know what I mean? And that's actually that's actually kind of like something I always try to have my students kind of like, face, right? Like they always want to, like, at least for my students, I think an issue that they have is like, they always kind of feel like they want that safety of a underpainting, right? To kind of help guide them, and to create like a compelling, accurate painting. And because of that, they want each step of the way to like look good, But I think you have to be okay with letting that go a little bit, and be okay with having your earlier stage at least look a little janky, and just trust that you can make the fixes. Another one of my teachers, like I know I say I'm mainly self-taught, but I did take a lot of free like short workshops, and that's why I'm naming so many people. But another one of my teachers, Tim Reese, studied with him alongside Daniel at Scottsdale, but also extraordinary painter. If you don't know his work, definitely check him out. He's honestly one of the best right now. But he said, let me think, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so he said basically that, I lost my train of thoughts. What did he say? What was I going to say again? Keith, wait, what was I talking about again?
I didn't keep track of it. I was looking at the way you did that. So I just got carried away.
It's okay. Oh wait, let me think. Oh man. Oh, what was I going to say again?
We'll come back to it if we remember.
If I remember what Tim
Let's
said.
talk about ears, because a lot of people have issues with sculpting a ear, because it's the year is just so much going on. The form is changing.
It's funny. Yeah. No. I remember like I used to struggle with ears a lot too, to the point where like every time I painted when I drew an ear when I was like in high school, my grandpa would look at it and be like, "That's not an ear. That's a slipper." Because I was like trying so hard to like make so many things happen.
Yeah.
Where recently I realized ears are actually very simple. Like they're not like you might think they're like, oh, so overly complicated. It's actually not true. If I were to squint right now, like for example, like take a look at the way that I drew this ear right here. I didn't draw any details. It's just one dark shape and two light shapes. That's it. And then the ear will come out, right? So it just kind of goes back to what I was saying about, you want to compartmentalize the shadows together in a way where they form unity.
Yeah.
And then so that way, like when I'm unifying the shadows of the ear per se, I can see, okay, cool. It's one shadow here, another shadow here, and then the rest is just one light here and another light here. And then maybe another shadow here to kind of push that light out. That's it. There isn't anything less or more to it other than that, right? So I feel like that's something, to think about at least when you're painting.
And also, you need to think of value as a design, because like Mike was saying in his course, he was saying a lot of great paintings like Sargent's work, or if you study some of these great masters' work, you will see the dark patterns, like the dark value patterns, they are somehow connected. All the shapes, they're connected to form a good design. They're not all broken off the place. Like right now, if you look at your design, the hair get into the ear, and if you are able to kind of fuse those two big darker shapes together, it forms a much better design than a whole bunch of tiny little broken shapes all over the place, right?
Yeah. And that kind of comes with just looking at shape design as well. You know what I mean? If you were to just kind of squint at the entire painting, like would it be like a compelling, interesting shape? Like that's when you want to think of it. That's like more of an illustration mindset, But that's something I've recently started thinking about, since my girlfriend's an illustrator, so she made me. She's like looking at her work. It was really interesting to start making me think differently about the way that I approach things too.
Josh Clare started out as an illustration major.
Oh really? Yeah. No, I bet. Yeah, I think a lot of people did actually, but that's cool. That's really interesting.
Yeah, if you see his drawing, you'll see a lot of caricature, exaggeration. Yeah, because he's got some mentors there, kind of like illustrators, really great illustrators. So he picks up a lot of that. He likes to exaggerate the features a little bit.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, that's why I really like about his drawings.
I know, he's so good.
Let's see. Yeah, I actually when I first went to college, I didn't know how to paint, and I actually went in to be an animation major actually. And then I fell in love with 2D animation. I loved 2D animation. It was so cool. And I think it was because I knew how to draw. I had like no issues with creating. But then we went to 3D, and then that's when I started losing interest. Because I mean, it was cool. I was still trying to learn it because I thought I wanted to like work in like a animation industry or whatever. But then I realized something like one day where just this happened, and it was the first straw and the last straw. I was working on my final, and I already put in like, I don't know, like 10, 15 hours 20 hours into it, maybe even more. And then all of a sudden the computer crashed and it lost everything.
Oh,
And then I was like, yeah, nope, I'm switching majors. I'm done. Because
you know,
this can never happen with oil painting. Unless someone breaks into my studio and steals it, this can never happen to oil painting. So I'm going to stick with oil painting. So I can't lose 20 hours of progress on an oil painting just for no reason, right? So
I know that's the funny thing is some illustrators or digital artists, they think, well, it's so great because you can undo and copy paste. But at the same time, they are facing a different challenge of
yeah,
losing work.
they have to, hopefully the machine does what they tell them to do, right?
Yeah. Hey, I noticed your palette, you don't keep it really clean because some people they're, as they mix it, sometimes they'll scrape it down and make it clean. But
Oh
then you
yeah,
keep going back using the similar, dark and light pools, but then you just kind of keep mixing it back in.
yeah. I do that too sometimes. I'm not doing that right now. Mainly because of also time too. Like I want to try to utilize each of my time, and I feel like I try to like I feel like I don't really have to do that a lot just because I compartmentalize wherever I mix my colors. So like right here I have like my darks. Right here I have like my warmth. Or here I have like my slightly lighter colors. And right here I have like my cool light
Mhm.
colors. So because of that, I usually can just like kind of fall into um, doing that instead of saying, oh man, like where am I going to put this color? I usually like try to have like a system,
Yeah.
right?
I don't know if you guys picked up on this, but if you look at his palette and squint your eyes, you can really see it's there are some big values, right? You have your light family and you have your dark family, and there's
Mhm.
kind of a clear line between the light and dark. So you're not painting full 10 steps of value, right? You kind of simplify.
Yeah, I'm definitely simplifying,
Yeah.
and I mean I'm not consciously doing this. Like I guess it's just because it's just reflects on my mindset in a way. Um, I guess it reflects on kind of the mindset that I have when I approach a painting. I like to keep everything nice and clean at least a bit.
Yeah.
So if that helps a little bit more.
And I found that much easier to create a stronger statement or stronger painting is if your value is somehow didn't isn't like Sargent or Zorn, those masters, they paint with a pretty simplified value, like 3, 4 values, and that's it. They don't go full on 10 values on the value scale, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, definitely. That's actually something I've been meaning to explore, but um, definitely would be interesting to explore. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I was doing Brian Mark Taylor's landscape course, and then there's one week we're just doing value studies, and he basically just forces us to do 3 value studies. So you just basically have 3 values,
Uh huh.
and it forces you to think and make the decision and say, is this value light or mid-tone or dark? And that's it. You don't have anything else.
Yeah.
And you really have to kind of do that kind of exercise for like, I did it for 2 weeks to kind of get myself out of the habit of mixing a whole bunch of middle
Yeah.
steps.
Yeah.
After that, I was able to kind of somehow separate the value and just really like simplify the value, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, because you like kind of like what you were saying earlier, right? When you focus on it more, the more you focus, the more you see. And then all of a sudden, instead of 3 values, you see full 10 values. and then you start breaking up your shapes because you're getting a whole bunch of middle steps in there, and your shapes are not going to be as strong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Oh no, definitely, I definitely agree with that. That's that's definitely a really interesting lesson. So I'm finally gonna change my brush up for the last 10, 12 minutes that we have to a slightly medium brush.
Yeah.
Finally changing it up a little bit. Actually, yeah. Oops. And hopefully that kind of shows you, like you can really just paint a majority of your paintings with like a medium brush, right? And then you'll still be able to kind of get the results that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's we get deceived by finished paintings, right? Because when you look at
Yeah, definitely.
a good example would be like Daniel Keys. You
Mm-hmm.
see finished painting and you see a lot of like little strokes, little beautiful strokes, and you would think, oh, he's doing it with tiny strokes all the way through, but not really. Like you build it up with
Yeah.
bigger
Oh, definitely.
brushes, and then you switch to the smaller one to pop in those accent strokes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah, no, Daniel is a really good example of brush economy, just because he also like preaches it a lot. But yeah, he's an excellent example. Like watching him paint definitely changed my outlook. And also, just a little, I guess I'll shout him out a little bit. How I was able to study with Daniel Keys for free was because he has this amazing program called the Palette Project. And it was the thing that allowed me to actually have my first real workshop. Because before then, I was just studying off of YouTube and stuff. I didn't really, right? So but the only thing is you have to be, I think 17 to 22. It used to be 21, but I persuaded him to turn it to 22 so I could go one more time. But I went like 3 times, and it was so awesome, right? They fly you out to Scottsdale Art School. You get to study with Daniel. You get to study with, and he brings friends all the time. So that's actually where I met Josh the first time. The first time I went, Josh was there. Tyler Murphy was there. Who else was there? Tim was there. Michelle Dunaway was there. So I was like, oh man, it was like super crazy. And yeah, and then I think the rest of the years, Tim was there, right? Yeah, Tim and Daniel, and they make a really good duo. But yeah, they teach, and it's like a free weekend workshop. So anyone who's watching this who are within that age group, feel free to check it out. Definitely a good opportunity. It's a good scholarship.
And also we're making education much more affordable nowadays with all the online teaching.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, like that's why, like I was happy when I saw that you guys are doing what you're doing, because I'm like, man, oh, students nowadays are so lucky to have all of this at their fingertips. Like when I was like trying to learn, it wasn't that I wasn't that lucky, right? A lot of just like looking at those like 240p YouTube videos and trying to figure it out. Yeah,
Well,
240p, yeah.
we try to shoot in 4K if possible, and a lot of footage is in 4K, so you can really like
Yeah, no, seriously, yeah.
clear things that you want. We try to make it like no excuses, right? Because we make it so affordable that people will be like, I don't have money. Really? It's $15 a month. Oh, okay. Well, I don't have time. Well, it's online. You stream it whenever you want. Oh, okay. Then I don't I can't see the video. Well, it's 4K. Like we try to eliminate all the excuses you can find.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That way, eventually you will just say, you know what? Yeah, I know. I need to be accountable. I'm not good really just because I'm not practicing. Let's just get back on the horse, get
Definitely.
some hours under the belt, and start improving, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
And like what you're doing over there with your program, it's not those extremely $100,000 degree to get training.
There we go.
Your camera just
I know. I just
yeah.
activated again.
So I love what you're doing there too. Like people can really come and study with you without breaking a bank.
Yeah. So yeah, I founded an atelier program after college graduation. We're called CalColor Atelier. Feel free to check us out on Instagram at CalColor Atelier. That's CAL color Atelier. But yeah, it's very. I mean, I'd say I think we're like the cheapest Atelier program in the world because we're really cheap. Like we're only doing like I think the program is only like 75 for like a 3-hour session, and I think even cheaper if you just come for even less. I mean, I have students who are making really beautiful progress, and they only come for like an hour and a half per week, which kind of shows you, like it's not really all about just mileage. It's about like, the quality of information that you're taking in. Because a lot of my students, like, they're in California, they're like, some of them are young, they're like AP students, so they don't have time to actually put in like 20, 30 hours a week. So I give them like an hour and a half per week to work. And they're still coming out with beautiful, beautiful drawings, even from coming from like zero experience. So, I mean, it kind of just shows you, right? You don't really need to put in a lot of time in order to really get, like you just need to get the right quality of instructions, right?
Like what we're calling it here at Sentient, we call, like you gotta have deliberate practice, right? Even though you only put in, say, an hour, but that hour, you know exactly what you're doing in that hour. You deliberately put in the effort to study edges or the value. Then your hour will actually come out be more valuable than 3 hours, right?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. You know what I mean? Like for me, for instance, like, I have students all the time asking me like, oh man, how much do you practice? And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, like I'm a slacker. Like I'm getting better at it now. Like I'm trying to paint every day now, but before, this is very new to me, painting every day. I'm just letting you know right now. It's very new to me because I used to only paint like once a week, maybe. And I only paint like every once a week. I only paint like 2 to 3 hours. That's all I did, right? And but because I know I'm a slacker, I know like I can't sit for that long because I also dance. That's why I can't sit for that long too. But yeah, it was because I knew I can only sit for those 2 to 3 hours. I really tried my best to kind of utilize that time wisely, right? Like instead of just like painting whatever, I was like saying, okay, I want to really tackle this for this time. Like, okay, how do I get this, or how do I get drawing? How do I get painting? I mean, how do I get values, right? And I just really target and practice it in every small session that I do. And even with that, I saw improvements. I mean, yeah.
Hey, right now you're doing that kind of like a 5 o'clock shadow, the beer fuzzy cheek thing. So get back to the illusion. You're not really going in with a one hair brush to get.
No, I'm not. All I did was just add a little bit of Viridian and a little bit of Ultramarine blue. That's all I did. Yeah, because here's the thing with cool colors, it especially in this kind of situation, if used correctly, should create the illusion of whatever it is you're trying to depict here. Yeah. So like a little bit of blue next to a warm in this context creates the illusion of 5 o'clock shadow.
Yeah.
So kind of hopefully that kind of shows you, right? It's something when you really think.
And you're playing against that color temperature, right? You put cooler against the warmer to create that. So that's another thing we learn a lot is when we talk about color temperature, it's relative. Again, it's not absolute. It's not like you put an icy cold blue in there. It's cooler to the temperature around it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and if you don't get that relationship right, that's where you put down a stroke and it just feels really hot or out of place because the relationship is not right.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of temperature, that piece you did that got the certificate of excellence, that lighting is just amazing.
Thank you so much. You know something, Keith? Just really quick throwing it out there. I felt really awkward winning that because like that one wasn't even I entered that as a bet. Like I entered that piece as that piece I had a lot of fun with, which is I felt like maybe that's why it got chosen because they can feel that I was having fun with it.
Yeah.
But that painting actually was an hour and a half
no way.
little experimental study. Yeah. Yeah, I was
agree. That's what you're saying, right? You're having fun, and like the other day, you were there when Josh was saying he went to Hawaii. Turned out that 1 hour tiny little study made it to the award.
Yeah.
Because you're having fun with it.
Yeah, you're having fun. You're not thinking. I feel like right now, especially with creating artwork, if you're trying to create an artwork that you're like, this is gonna win so many awards, it's gonna shock people, it's gonna blow people. You're not gonna blow people's mind. You know what I mean? Because like, here's the thing: you're thinking too hard. You're thinking too much. Whereas like the naturalism is just gone. You just kill it by doing that. So I feel like it's very important to still really try to preserve that kind of innocence, I guess, about painting, where you're just kind of exploring. Like that piece, it was full on exploration. I I wasn't really thinking it would win anything. Like I was just like saying, oh man, this is really cool. I want to I want to try painting like a little light, like a little glow like behind this. I think that'd be awesome. I recently got like a new light setting too. That's why that's actually me testing it. I had no idea it was gonna even like be a part of like something like the Portrait Society. So so I felt a little weird. I was like, do I deserve to be here? But then I was like, you know what? Yeah, I do, because like I still painted it. It's still my painting, so I should be proud of it. So yeah.
Well, we have. Oh, it's 5 o'clock. I mean, yeah, it's time. So.
All right. That's all right. This is the best I can do within 1 hour. So for those of you guys who want to paint at home, you can do better than me.
You took it to pretty finish, and it's good that we get to see your process.
I can zoom in a little bit here.
Hey, later on, can you take a better photo and then just
yeah, for sure. Just zoom in a little bit so people can kind of.
Oh yes. Oh my.
Can you see? I don't know.
Yep. Beautiful, beautiful.
Ooh, the colors are a little.
There.
But yeah. So. Cool.
Thank you so much, Kai.
Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in, and hopefully you guys had fun watching as much as I have fun painting.
What's your Instagram? Let's drop it so people know.
My Instagram is just my name. My name is KaiLunqu. So Kai Lun Qu. That's it. At Kai.
Yeah, that's my Instagram. I just typed it in for people.
Okay.
I added your Instagram link on this. If you go to Sentient to see this, it's on the bottom. So everybody just, go follow Kai, and don't forget to check his atelier out if you're in the area, because he's teaching a lot of good students there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, Keith. This has been really, really wonderful. It's been
yeah. We'll have to do this more.
Oh yeah, definitely open to it.
Awesome. Hey, thanks. I'll let you go, and thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time. Oh, hold on. Let's do a little preview for next Monday. So next Monday we have Liz Harris to do a Mother's Day special episode. She's gonna do a portrait drawing. So tune in next Monday, 4 p.m. Mountain Daylight Saving Time. So go follow Kai and say hi to him. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.